Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor, a new project every week, and this week we are doing the snow globe. This project is fun because we're focusing on reflections and we're making it seem super realistic just by doing some simple value changes.
Very nice.
I know. We have Keenan here who's working our cameras.
Hello, thank you for coming.
He'll ask questions, we talk about things. We're your friends, pretty much.
We want to hang out with you.
Please hang out with us.
Please.
And I will be using 4 colors for this project. Now I do want to do a call out really quick, which is I noticed that my printed materials, the blue on this is reading way more blue than the original. Because sea blue is like a blue-green, and I'll show you. You'll see it right here. We have sea blue. You see how it's more turquoisey?
Yeah.
So that was an error on my part with editing this file, and I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, we forgive you.
Thank you. So if your blue is reading more green, that is how that sea blue is naturally. Also, I want to say that these paints are actually custom made every single month, so there could be slight variations from month to month, and I think that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
It's like a custom experience every month. So that's why if you have like an older bottle and a newer bottle, the colors might be slightly different, and that's because they're made for you every single month. So.
Nice.
Okay, our first color is sea blue. Our second color is Payne's Gray. Our third color, oh, I got some black in there, is lemon yellow. That's still red yellow. We're good. And our last color is red, which is such a bright, happy red. There we go. Okay, I'm using a round 2 and a round 6. These are the Princeton Heritage Series great brushes. I usually use the LMA Classic Series, round 2, round 6. Those are excellent brushes. Whatever you have on hand, really. But these are our main go-to brushes. Okay, let's trace the outline, and then we'll do our, oh, I didn't do steps yet.
Not yet.
Okay, let's do steps. So we will do this project in 5 steps. So our very first step, we are going to put in the sky. Our second step, we'll put in the snow hills. Our third step, we will paint our house. Our fourth step, we will do our little trail here. And our last step, we'll put in the trees and a little bit of finishing details.
I like those footsteps.
Me too. They add a little something, don't they?
They do.
All right, so here's the outline. I tape it down to my watercolor paper. I then take my graphite paper and put dark shiny side down. Remember, graphite paper gets better with age, so if you get one piece, try and use that one piece over and over again. Honestly, this piece is like over a year old and it's my favorite piece. And it's just because the graphite is not as strong, so it makes it easier to trace without getting like too many extra dark marks.
Like an accidental hand pressure mark.
Yes, because that happens with the brand new piece.
Let me tell you.
How many times I got graphite paper marks on my paper? It's true. That really is a problem. And there are other ways of tracing. I know that a lot of people prefer light boxes or using like a window. For me though, honestly, and I'm not messing with you guys, I use graphite paper in my personal work. That really is how I transfer outlines or images to my paintings. And that is because even with a light pad, I feel like I can't get a true sense of values with the light pad. Oh no, my outline just, oh, I gotta start over. It unstuck.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I'll have to get a better piece of tape. So anyways, I feel like with light pads, I can't get like a clear understanding of like value changes with light pads because I am going through a sheet of paper, and it's not a huge difference, but it's enough to like just give me pause. So that's why I like graphite paper, because the image is literally on the top and I don't have to worry about it.
What if it was a really bright light pad? What if it was the sun?
Are you saying I just am using a low quality? They're like, Sarah, stop using the TV as a light pad.
Please stop drawing on your computer monitor.
You know what's funny is that's what I used to do actually.
I know. It's terrible.
I would just hold up my paper to the computer monitor, and That was when I was in like high school, I think.
Oh, I remember those days. High school.
Yeah.
That was a joke because I was homeschooled.
You're still in high school and homeschool? Just not like physically going to a place.
Oh. I don't know what you mean.
Because like your grades stay the same even when you're homeschooled, and high school is considered, depending on where you live, like 8th to 12th or 9th to 12th.
Oh.
So homeschoolers that are in like 10th grade are still in high school, even if they don't physically go to a high school.
I thought you were saying I'm still currently in high school mode.
Well, that would be correct too, actually.
Good one. Boom, roasted.
Oh my gosh, my tape just doesn't want to stay. Let's see. I'm going to just hold it at the top. That is funny. Okay. Also, I want you guys to remember outlines are guidelines. Please do not view this as a coloring book. And by that, I mean we don't want it to feel blocky. We don't want the colors or the values to just be so clearly sectioned off like a coloring book is. And instead, use these outlines that I provide for you as a guideline to understanding where there are shapes and also where there are value changes. And that is why I'm trying to adjust how I do the outlines so it's more clear what is an actual hard line or edge and what is a shadow. And so that's why on this house, you see I have like little hash marks underneath the roof. And that's because there's a shadow there. But I didn't want to do like a hard line because I didn't want to confuse your eye on what it was. Okay, let's lift it up, see where we're at. Okay, I think I just forgot this. And my trail. Boop, 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 boop. And if you feel comfortable eyeballing stuff, then you don't even need to put like, you don't have to trace that trail in if you feel comfortable just eyeballing it, because you can just eyeball it.
Maybe you could put it somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do our oath and then let's get started. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you.
Tried to tell me I was going to reach the bell.
I saw the bell far away from Keenan, and I was like, Keenan, grab that bell. That's what that point was. And he knew it.
I saw it.
This is us right here. Okay. So I'm going to start with my sky. And I'm going to use my round 6. Thank you. Here it is. I was saying thank you to myself for finding it. And we'll start. Now, we're going to do wet on wet technique with this, which is super fun. We'll be dropping in water. If you have salt, use some salt. I didn't use salt when I made this project, but it's going to create some really cool textures. So if you have some at home, use that. It's going to create cool snowy stuff. Now, the other thing I want you guys to pay attention to as we're doing this sky is I kind of want it to feel like a snow globe, where when you shake it and the snow is kind of moving and it's kind of like flurry-y. Because you see how it's like this, you know, like the values?
Yes.
And values is all, is the lightness and darkness of a color. So it's dark up here, lighter down here. But you can see like moments where it's lighter, it gets darker. And I wanted it to feel that way because I want it to feel active, okay? Where if you wanted a peaceful snow globe, a calm winter's night, you would do a smooth, even wash that would transition from dark to light, okay?
Okay.
So you wouldn't have like the different textures and the dots and things like that. And that will make it feel calm.
Calm.
I was trying to think of the opposite word of active. And it wasn't.
Inactive?
Inactive, but I didn't feel like that was a good descriptor.
It's going to be a lazy snow globe.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take some of my sea blue. And really, I mean, Keenan,
yeah,
I just love this color.
I mean, it's a great color.
It's a beauty. And then when you add a little bit of Payne's Gray to it, it turns this gorgeous navy color. Look at that. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Payne's Gray, add a little bit of my sea blue, make a darker value. But you don't want too much Payne's Gray because when you lighten that, it will read gray instead of blue. So that's why you want to have a good amount of blue still. Okay, so I'm going to use my 6, get my paintbrush wet, hit it off the side of the cup so it's not dripping, and just use water first. And I'm working around these glare spots because glass, even though it's transparent, it is still there. And how we communicate that two-dimensionally is by leaving glare spots on things. Okay, and I'm just dropping in this color. Now, when I drop it in, I'm kind of leaving space around some of these places. Like you can see there, I left a little space. I'm gonna leave a little like dot there. I'm not trying to get a smooth, even wash. Remember, we're really playing with textures and hard edges. Okay. Look at that little bleed right there, beautiful.
Beautiful.
And then you can use water to spread it out. Again, I'm leaving some spots here and there. You can also just drop in some water. So I like to do water, drop in the color, then kind of spread it out, and then repeat. Drop it. And then now I'm going to start adding more like blue instead of the blue Payne's Gray mixture because I want the change in value. And again, maybe leave some, if you even want to like draw little circles, like little pieces of snow.
Ooh, that's nice.
And then paint around them, you can. Just remember to try and do it quickly, because if you wait too long to blend out around the circles that you drew, it'll just be harder to blend those out. So again, I'm kind of just painting around my glares. If it's kind of jagged, you see how my edge is jagged here, I'm just going to take my paintbrush and smooth that out. There we go. And I'm going to turn my paper just so I can try and get a smooth edge. I actually saw in our Facebook group called Let's Make Art Watercolor that someone said they learned that if they tape their paper to a cutting board, it makes it easier to, it's taped down so it stays flat, and then they can easily rotate it and move it.
Like a lazy Susan.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great idea because when I tape it down to my desk, I can't rotate it, you know? So if you like to rotate to get cleaner lines, or just easier for you to do some like detail spots, tape it to a cutting board.
That's excellent.
Okay, and you can see that I'm adding more water the closer I get to my snow. And that's how you communicate like depth and space in a sky, in any landscape, is there has to be a value change. And if there is not a value change, then your sky is going to appear flat, just even.
Is the sky flat?
No.
Does the sky have a shape?
Well, the Earth has a shape.
Well, yes.
And the sky forms to that.
All right, okay. So it's round.
Yeah. That is why when you do like really wide angle images, you can see it curve.
Yes.
Yeah. That's also why the flat is not Earth. I mean, the Earth is not flat.
Yep.
We have to take that out.
Nope.
Yes.
No, that has
Michael,
to stay.
please take that out. Please. I can't. I can't. Okay. So, just keep on going on. Keep on. And I'm so light in my wash on the bottom now. It's a barely there color that I'm just going to paint over where my trees go. And this one. And if you need to do like another value layer where you like put in your sky and you're like, okay, it's not reading as dark as I want it to read, let it dry a little bit and then do another layer of color. Watercolor for the most part always dries lighter than the color that you, or the value that you put down. That's just the nature of watercolor. But never fret, just let it dry and do another layer. I especially want to focus on a dark value around my glare spots to make them stand out more. Because if I leave a really light value around there, then the white of the glare doesn't pop out as much. So I want to make sure it's nice and dark. Drop in some water here. Again, when it comes to dropping in water, I'm kind of just being a little haphazard. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just trying to get blooms. I'm trying to get textures. I'm trying to get an uneven wash.
Makes me think of a stormy sky.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted.
Nailed it.
Nailed it?
I see. Okay.
Called you out on that. And then like, just do as much of color and layer as you feel is necessary. I'm going to add a little bit more color on my way down. And then I'm going to kind of like clean up a little bit some of the white areas I left blank. Not all of them, you can leave a couple, but I kind of did a lot there, so.
Got a little excited about the
I did.
spaces.
See how much the glares pop out now?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. So if your glares aren't showing up, pay attention to the value around it. See how light and dark it is. And then I'm just going to do a quick little smear here, almost as if like the window that's reflecting off of it has like panes or something.
Tricky.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's just a little, don't go too far. And if you would rather leave it just white, that's okay too. I like to be edgy.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's just a little something here, you know?
Might as well dye your hair black.
I don't know how that would be with my very fair skin. But when I was in high school, I wish I had black hair very badly.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Thought it was so cool. I thought I would look so hard, you know?
With your skateboard?
With my skateboard and my heavy metal music and my swoop bangs. Okay. I think that's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that looks great.
It feels blizzardy, it feels active. I got some good glares. I have some really gorgeous textures and blooms, especially right in there. Do you see that?
They look like legit clouds.
It's so satisfying. I love watercolor. Watercolor.
That made me think of Trolls World Tour, where the pop trolls are infiltrating the rock trolls area, and they do a rock jam, and then at the end he's like, brush your teeth.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's my favorite part.
Brush your teeth. And like their metal music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only music my girls request.
I
Queen
can understand
Barb,
that.
Crazy Train. That's all they want to listen to.
It's a good song. Okay.
Well, she wrote it, so.
Yeah. Who is even Ozzy Osbourne?
Yeah, I don't.
Or was that a Black Sabbath?
That was Ozzy Osbourne.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, because Ozzy Osbourne was in Black Sabbath.
Listen.
And he
Don't
was in
ask
that
me
band.
about history.
And then he went off.
Musical history.
Dad, please don't be mad at me for not getting this right. Okay. We did step 1. Great job. And really take a moment to notice watercolor and what it naturally does and celebrate it instead of be mad at it for it. So the blooms, the textures, just the bleeds. Take a moment and be like, you know what, watercolor, you're not too bad, you know?
You're not too dang shabby yourself, watercolor.
Thanks for doing this with me.
Read all about it. Watercolor's the best.
We're having too much fun this time, Keenan. Okay. So now we're going to move on to step 2, which is our snow. So all I'm going to do here for snow is just do a light shadow from between these two kind of hills on the bottom, and then it gets lighter at the top and the same on this side. But remember, you can always add more. So I would suggest going really, really light washes because you can always add more. But if you go too dark too fast, it's not going to read as snow. Or if it does, it's going to read as really dirty snow. You know when it gets like muddy snow?
Yeah, we don't like that. That's like when it's starting to melt.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Really nice to pack and throw at your brothers, but not to play in.
So I just added some water to my Payne's Gray. And I'm going to grab a tiny bit of blue. Just a tiny bit though. I want this to read gray blue as opposed to blue gray.
Okay.
So here's my really light wash. I'm going to start at where the line is when these two places meet. And that's about as dark as I want to go. And then I'm just going to add water and blend out.
Sometimes when you blend, you pull water into the color that you placed versus pulling the color away.
Yes.
Can you explain why?
So at about this point, I know that if I keep blending up, this color is just going to keep moving just by how fast I'm painting in general. So I still want to blend, but I don't want it to turn out even. So at this point, I'm actually going to blend the opposite way to keep the darkest value at the bottom here. And so that you can use the direction of your blending to help the paint know where it needs to go. So if you want it to stay at the bottom, then you would blend this way. Because whenever you lift up your brush, there's always going to be a little pile of paint and water right there. That's just how it is. So I use that to my advantage, and that dictates the direction that I blend. So I usually always start to blend out, and then if I want to keep darker values at the bottom, I'll blend the opposite way.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so, okay, I started really light. It looks pretty good. If you want to do like one more layer, you can. If yours is dark enough that you feel like you don't need that, then don't listen to me and you do not have to do this part. Okay, so there's our first little snowy hill. We're going to do the exact same thing on this side. I'm going to follow. Now I want you to notice I left a little bit of space in between the bottom of my snow and the bottom of the glass. And that's because I want to show that glass itself would create a thickness. It's thick. So this snowy edge would not go all the way to the edge because the glass is going to account for some of that thickness taking up space. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Okay. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space, not a ton, but just a little line. then you blend. And again, adjust your direction of your blending depending on, like I'm still blending up because I feel like I'm not getting too dark near the top. And maybe now is when I start blending back down. Yep, there we go. Okay, and we're gonna do our base next. And I realized I didn't do enough Payne's Gray, which is pretty much our entire base, so I'm gonna put more of that on my palette. Okay, now I have some glare spots here, so paint around those. And it's gonna be a similar process, except we wanna make it more smooth. So I'm actually gonna start by putting water down first. And I'm gonna go on the very bottom. So I'm just doing a thin layer of water. Okay, and then while it's still wet, I'm gonna grab my Payne's Gray, drop it in. Now the reason that I do this, I do the water first when I want to keep values really dark, is because I have noticed that, and I'm not sure if this is true for pan watercolors or tube watercolors, but with the liquid watercolors, the values tend to stay darker when I put water down first and then drop the paint into it, as opposed to me just painting black paint with watercolor.
That makes sense.
That's just something I've noticed through my experience. So that's why I do that.
Did you notice how awesome it was when you put that straight into the water? Because that spread out real cool.
Yeah. And that is like one of the most satisfying
It really is.
moments, is just to watch that move.
Very visually pleasing.
I like it a lot. Okay, and if you have a little bit of like lighter spots here and there, I'm gonna leave those. I actually think those look really cool, and I don't think it detracts from the overall form. And that's really my overall view of watercolor in general, is if it's not taking away from the painting or confusing the viewer on what is going on, then like celebrate those blooms. Celebrate the moments that are accidental, that kind of leave cool textures. Because if anything, I think it just adds visual interest. Okay, so we're still going on. I'm gonna be painting around my little glare spot. I'm also gonna leave a really thin line in between the top and bottom of the base, just to show that there's kind of like it comes out like an edge a little bit. Then we're gonna drop in. I'm going to move my palette here so I can. Okay, and then now I'm kind of going to just use water to spread it out. I want the middle of my base to be a little bit of a lighter value. Sorry, Keenan, I'm kind of like moving my paper all around.
You've been good.
And then also, I mean, we're dealing with some really strong shapes here, circles and like this kind of curve here. It's hard to get a really smooth line. So like, I notice that if I kind of put my paper to the side and just take my brush to go along the edge, it's easier for me to like smooth out that shape than just trying to do it piece by piece. Okay.
One full smooth motion.
Yeah, and remember, don't plant your wrist when you do that, because you'll be limited in how far you can reach. You can rest your wrist, but put your weight in your shoulder or your elbow, so you can like go as long as you need to go. Okay, and then I'm just going to do a quick swoop across half of the glare, because even glares have transitions of value. Okay. That's looking not too shabby.
Looking great.
If I don't say so myself. All right, now we're going to move on to our house. So if your paint water is this color, it might affect, here, this color. It might affect the redness of your house. So if your paint color is really dirty, I suggest maybe getting clean water. And I have my red, and I'm just gonna start painting my house. And I'm actually gonna switch to my 2, because this is a pretty tiny area.
Whenever we paint, I get into a making mode.
A making mode?
Yeah,
like
I just want to make things.
Like build stuff? Like what kind of things?
Well, just anything. I always want to build something.
That is true.
But every time we film, I'm just like, man, I should build something.
That's awesome. That's like being inspired.
Yeah.
That's getting excited
it's
about.
inspirational, Sarah.
It's just getting excited about creativity in general. And even if like, I don't know, that's why I think when people ask me like, where do you find inspiration? It's just like, I get really pumped when I see other people passionate and creative in any form. Like cooking shows, beautiful cooking documentaries are like, I'm like, I have to paint everything after that because I can see, I also love food, but I can see like the passion, I can see the love, I can see it, and I'm like, I want to feel that, I want to paint, you know? Also, since moving to Missouri, I have learned to cook, and I really enjoy it. It's like it's something I really love to do. Making soups is one of my favorite things because I feel like I'm just making a pot of like comforting food love.
Since I moved to Missouri, I've learned that I love to eat food. I've been here for 27 whole years.
Yeah, I realized I loved eating.
I just love it.
Okay, so there's my house. Let's do my little brick or my little red roof. But if your sky is still wet, mine's dry, so hopefully yours is dry at this point. But if yours is still wet, don't paint this yet because your red will bleed into your sky. It's just a little chimney. I said roof, I meant chimney.
No, you said chimney.
Oh, did I?
You got a little red chimney.
Okay, perfect. And we're gonna leave that to dry for a second, and we're gonna move on to other places. So let's do our trail, which is step 4. And I'm gonna do a similar value to what I did the snow shadows, but a little bit darker. Just add a little bit more paint into there because we want it to show up. And how we're communicating distance with this is, and you can see this true, where when something is closer to you in space, it is bigger. So these, it's not like a big person started walking and then a tiny person started walking. It's just like
the big person took a tiny person and threw them.
Carried them and then set them down. Little person had to carry the big person.
Yes.
But that's, and like, this is the amazingness of taking something 3-dimensional and putting it 2-dimensional, is these tricks that we learn to communicate space on a 2-dimensional surface. And if you look at the distance, it could be a fence post, it could be plants, it could be anything that starts close to you and then gets farther away from you, it's going to get smaller because it's farther away from you.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
That makes sense.
It's a rule. So I got my little thing and I'm just gonna do kind of dashes. And you can do like, if you wanna try and even do footprint shapes, you can. But let's be honest, like I'm not a clean footprint walker in the snow.
No, who is?
I slush around, I don't know, I can't get a nice little.
I'm kind of surprised there's not like a snow angel right next to this trail real quick, because I rarely just walk in a straight line.
Especially when it's like this powdery and soft.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like I just gotta lay in it.
It's not that cold.
So just kind of let it be messy, have it be bigger, and also it's always going to be a little bit darker on the foreground and then get lighter in value as it goes out.
That blended in so well.
Do you see that?
Yeah, almost can't even see it now.
Yeah. So there's my path. I see I have a little bit, this one kind of curves a little bit where this one feels a little bit more straight. I'm okay with that because my hill's curvy.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay, so there's my path. And now I'm going to put a slight shadow on my roof, just using that same color that I used for the bottom of the snow. It's just going to be painted on top. Like that. And we'll do our trees, and then I'll go back in and do the shadow on the house. So for the trees, this is why we have yellow here. I'm going to grab my yellow, and I'm going to grab my red to make orange. And then you can either add a tiny bit of Payne's gray to make a brown. Actually, do that. Just do Payne's gray. I was going to say, like, let's see what happens when you add the blue. But let's just keep it simple. And then depending on how much black you add will dictate how dark the brown is and how gray the brown is. So you can just keep on adding the different colors until you get a brown that you're happy with. And there's no right or wrong. This is why I enjoy teaching you guys how to mix colors, because when it comes to colors that people like to use, a lot of it just comes down to preference. And I want to give you guys the tools to be able to use the different types of blues and different types of browns that you naturally like on your own. Okay, so here's my brown. And I'm just going to kind of follow. They're not super detailed. They're just little trunks. And I'm using my 2 for this. Okay, and then I'm going to do more, but I'm going to add a little bit of water to it to make them lighter, to communicate that they're farther away. And just remember when you do trees that trees are thickest on their trunk, and then as the branches move out, it gets thinner. That's like the rule with most trees. So as long as you're doing that, you're good to go.
It'd be sweet if there was a fallen tree in the snow.
Yeah.
Also a tree that the trunks never changed size.
These trees kind of remind me of the trees in The Wizard of Oz.
I would have to rewatch The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, really? The apple trees?
I
throw
don't
apples?
remember that at all.
That's just how what's reminding me. Okay, there's our trees. And now let's just do our shadow on our house. So I'm going to take my red and add a little bit of Payne's gray to it. It's going to create like a dark red that almost reads purple, which is really actually one of my favorite colors.
A dark purple?
Like this red feels more purple to me now that I added the black to it.
Oh, okay.
So it's not making the actual purple, but it's like a red purple. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's how I picture it anyway. Where like if I were to look at this color by itself, if I didn't have red in here at all, I would say that's more purple than red.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
So, wild. Anyways. Okay.
Colors.
Colors. What a trip. Okay. So then my house is dry and I'm just going to go along the roof line and put in the shadow. And what I like to do is I like to put it in and then maybe just the softest bit of water, not a lot, just to kind of blend it out. And then all of a sudden our house is 3-dimensional.
Jiminy Christmas.
And don't forget this bottom edge too.
Himiny miminy.
Himiny miminy. Got a little bit excited with my edge here, so I got to reshape my roof.
That looks good.
Thank you. I didn't put a door on this. If you wanted to add doors or windows, or maybe you do like slats, you know, as if it's made up of pieces of wood, you could do that. You can add a little smoke. You can add a snow angel. You can
put Santa on the roof.
Yeah. Or like reindeer in the sky going
Yes.
across. Or that's actually really hard. You guys can do it, but like that's difficult.
Good luck.
Okay. And that is our snow globe. We did it.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys so much for playing with me. I hope you have fun with this. If you're on Instagram, you could tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. If you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. And we also have a watercolor group that we created it just because we wanted you guys to see what each other make. Because when you do something new and when you're trying something and it's scary and it's vulnerable, and creativity is all about vulnerability, it is hard to put yourself out there. It's so much easier when you have a community to support you, to say like, this is hard and we're in this together. And sometimes it's not about being perfect, it's just about learning. It's about having fun. It's about trying something new. It's about exercising that creative muscle in your brain. And we just want you guys to have that. We want to be that for you, but we also want you guys to be that for each other. And so that's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. It's a big group, but very supportive. And so you can join that if you want to see what other people are making. There's a lot of creative people in that group. They make the projects their own. It's very fun. So you can find that on Facebook. And I think that's all I got to say.
Yes.
Keenan, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.